From Wish TV, All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics. Focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Now, from Wish TV, your local news source, this is All Indiana Politics.
Good Sunday morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. Election 2023 has come and gone. Last Tuesday's election saw big wins for Democrats in Indianapolis, Terre Haute, and Evansville. I discussed the election results and also a look ahead at 2024 with Indiana Democratic Party Chair Mike Schmoll. Mike Schmoll is the chairman of the Democratic Party here in Indiana. Mike, good to see you. Thanks for coming into studio with us.
Thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
Election day was a good night for Democrats.
It was a very good night for Democrats. We built on our foundations around the state. Huge win for Mayor Joe Hogsett here in Indianapolis. Big win for Tom Henry up in Fort Wayne, the mayor of South Bend. But we made big gains across the state. Evansville, Terre Haute, Lawrence, Michigan City, West Lafayette, bigger communities. A lot more people next year are going to have Democratic mayors than they do now.
I want to talk about the Indianapolis race, but let's get into any surprises that you might have had. When you look at some of Terre Haute, Evansville, as you mentioned, and did any of those stand out to you? Were you surprised by any of those, either wins or losses?
Well, I think for both, a little bit surprised. They both ran great campaigns. Evansville has been in Republican hands for about 12 years.
Right.
We won the mayor's office and we swept every city office. So there's a majority in the city council, maximum. The same is true in Terre Haute. Yeah. Brandon Sackman, a 27-year-old Army Ranger. Mm-hmm. He's beating a 4-term mayor in Duke Bennett, going for his 5th term. He's an up-and-comer in our party. So both very impressive. Not overly surprising because they ran such good campaigns. Sure. But nonetheless, great to have those victories.
Why do you think specifically in that Terre Haute race, why do you think his message resonated so much?
He's young. He represents the next generation. Yeah. He's a diverse candidate, born and raised in Terre Haute, 27 years old. He could go off and do anything, like a lot of Hoosier kids who grew up, go to other big cities and start their careers. He's decided to roll up his sleeves and get to work for the people of his hometown. That message, all positive. All looking to the future, good ideas, good passion, lots of hope. 60-40, he won that race last night.
An Army Ranger probably helped a little bit too.
A lot with discipline.
Yes. Tough dude. Let's talk about Indianapolis now. Yeah. I don't think that was a surprise to many when you were just leading up to it. Everybody, as much as you want to read polls or believe polls, the writing was on the wall that this was going to happen. Mayor Hogsett gets a 3rd term.
Mayor Joe, I always joke during campaigns, they might call somebody a lot of names during that process, but at the end of the day, they're still going to call him mayor, right? And so he's got a strong political brand. He's got a good operation, 60-40. The results speak for themselves. Jefferson Shreve, $14 million, the most expensive mayoral race in the history of this state. You can buy a lot with $14 million, but you can't buy the mayor's office in Indianapolis.
Yeah. What do you think happened there? Obviously, speaking from the Democratic side, but what do you think happened there with what does that tell you about the makeup of Marion County?
It's interesting. Not that long ago, Indianapolis had a Republican council.
Sure.
And had a Republican mayor in Greg Ballard. Yeah. And now, one of the results I found very interesting last night was Republicans were expecting to make gains in those city council races. I think they picked up 1 seat. And so Mayor Joe ran very strong. All the Democrats running in the council level also ran strong. But what I think it also showed was Jefferson Shreve filed very late. He had a lot of resources. He wanted to be mayor. But that sort of drive, that core message, why do you really want to be mayor, just didn't resonate with the voters in Indianapolis.
Obviously, everything trickled down to Lawrence as well. First Democratic, first female African-American mayor in entire Marion County. I mean, that helped.
Yes, huge. Deb Whitfield, at-large council member there in Lawrence, chair of the Public Safety Committee, inclusive leader, a warm leader, bringing people together, neighborhoods, public safety, positive. She's going to be a great leader for Lawrence.
Carmel didn't go your way. What happened there?
Carmel, Fishers, Westfield, those communities, it's brand new terrain for the Democratic Party. I think if you would have said 10, 12 years ago that, a mayoral candidate and a full slate of Democrats would do as well as they did, I think a lot of people would have been surprised.
Right.
I'm proud of what our candidates did up there. Looking at those numbers, 400 votes short in Fishers of having 4 people on the city council. These are tight margins. People in Carmel got 45, 46%. That's competitive, and that bodes well for the future. I think what we have up there is more people involved, more volunteers, more donors, more infrastructure, more of a message, and I think that'll help us out longer term. This was our first bite at the apple.
Long term, looking towards next 2024, obviously the presidential race. What is the impact this race will have on that, in your opinion? Not only here in Indiana, but also nationally when you look at races such as Ohio and Kentucky.
I think what it's shown is that this year we've shored up bigger areas in Indiana, and I think that will help us as we get to a statewide races next year. I remind people everywhere I go around this state that next year is 20 years of Republican administrations, and I think Hoosiers deserve an honest debate about those 20 years. Are we better off? I hate to see Indiana at the bottom of the barrel of so many of these rankings when I think every Hoosier wants to be in the top 5, top 10. We're competitive. We want to be better than we are right now. Economics, freedom, choice, cannabis, getting a good job, getting a good union job. Those are the things that people tell me about.
Right.
And that's what the Democratic Party stands for. And so what we need to do is have great candidates up and down the ticket, build on these bases of support we've built this year in cities, and maximize the vote next year.
We'll see the impact next year, whether it be presidential or the governor's races. Well, Mike Schmull, always good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, what are the state's top Republicans saying about Tuesday night? We'll ask them next on All Indiana Politics. And welcome back to All Indiana Politics. Republicans may have lost the Indianapolis mayoral race, but they keep the Carmel office. It's one of the big wins for the GOP on Tuesday. I sat down with Republican Danny Lopez for a reaction. All right, Danny, so wrap up on election night. I would assume Republicans here in the state weren't too pleased with the way things went.
I disagree. I thought it was a great night for Republicans. When you look at the gains that were made, when we woke up Wednesday morning, we have more Republican mayors in this state than we've ever had, which was tremendous. We had a number of minority candidates that ran and won. So thinking about Ronald Morrill in Marion, thinking about Tiffany Ditlipson, Cecilia Coble and Fishers, that were tremendous gains as well. We closed the gap in Indianapolis and in some places. And if you think about where I'm at in Hamilton County, I think it was anticipated that those would be close races. Actually, it was nearly a clean sweep in Hamilton County. So I think there's a lot to be proud of. And frankly, I'd say that, the reports, contrary to sort of where the Democrats want to try to spin this, the reports of the Democratic comeback is overstated for sure.
Why is that? Why do you think that?
Well, because I think when you look at the gains that have been made, it's tremendous. Again, in Hamilton County, we ran on record. Every Democrat candidate in Hamilton County tried to distract. They tried to distract from Republican records of 20 plus years of Republicans running Hamilton County and turning it into one of the best places in the country, not just in the state, but in the country to live and play. And it didn't work. It backfired. It didn't work because Republicans ran substantive candidates who put forward a vision, and voters understand the record, just like they understand the record across the state. So when you have more Republican mayors today than you had yesterday or Tuesday morning, it's a sign to me that voters are pretty happy with the Republican direction.
Democrats, they'll point to some of the bigger ones: Indianapolis, Evansville, Terre Haute.
Yeah,
Your response to that?
So certainly some of these, each of these races is nuanced, right? So Evansville, you had a third-party candidate that ran after a very heated primary that sort of distorted that race. Indianapolis, the truth is in Indianapolis, we closed the gap from where we were in 2019. We picked up a council seat, which was significant, and we ran a bunch of young, and recruited a bunch of young, dynamic, energetic candidates that are going to be around for the long haul. So actually, as a party in Indianapolis, we made tremendous gains. And then again, I point to a place like Hamilton County where you ran the table, right? The truth is that Democrats in Hamilton County have been talking about Hamilton County across the state actually as a place where they're going to stake their comeback. Well, if you woke up on Wednesday morning and you're a Democrat candidate, there's no way you can be happy with those results, and there's no way that you can think that Democrat talking points are resonating with Hamilton County voters.
And several of the Democrats that I've spoken with agree with you on that, actually. They were very disappointed, specifically about Carmel,
sure.
neck of the woods.
It's not resonating. So the truth is that voters are smart. Voters in Indiana are smart, and they look at the record, and they look at the record statewide. When we think about where we were as a state 20 years ago before Mitch came into office, and we think about where we are now that Governor Holcomb is rounding out his second term, we were unable to pave roads. We were unable to fund pensions. We now are making record investments in education, record investments in infrastructure, record CapEx, record growth, plus a surplus. We're doing record mental health investments. We're doing incredible things that other states are not able to do. That is a Republican record. It's a Republican record in 206 in the governor's office, and it's a Republican record in the legislature. That's not something Democrats can run on in this state, and they're finding it very hard to get any traction.
What do you think happened here in Indianapolis and Marion County?
Well, I mean, you always knew it was going to be an uphill battle. But again, I would point to places where Democrats did, underperformed or Republicans overperformed and ran candidates that won. It is not easy to win seats here as a Republican in Indianapolis. But when you think about picking up a seat and, again, finding young, dynamic, hungry candidates that can be around for the long haul, and the infrastructure that Commissioner Joe Elsner, the county chairman, has built here in Marion County, I think it's a great thing for the future.
Nationally, specifically when you look at states like Kentucky and Ohio and what happened there, what does that tell you, and what is your take on those races? Yeah, so I'm always careful to draw parallels between, certainly in an off year in a state like Ohio or Kentucky or whatever to a presidential year election in 2024 in Indiana, where the turnout will be much higher than what it was this year. The truth is that here again, you're going to find, but we see the playbook, you're going to find the Democrats next year are going to talk about issues that have been litigated and try to nationalize these elections for 2024. And the reality is that Republicans are going to continue to point to their record. The record of success for the last 20 years that really turned the state around and turned it from a flyover to one of the great states in the country, one of the most strong states in the country. That Republican leadership of education investment and teacher pay and mental health and economic growth and talent attraction, we're the only state in the Midwest that's growing population. There's a reason for that. And the reason for that is Republican policies that have been put in place, sensible Republican policies that have been put in place for the last 20 years, have put this state on a trajectory that is really unmatched. I have about 30 seconds left. I know you're running for office as well. How's that going?
It's going great. We're out connecting, talking about things that people care about. We're going to do it, Phil, in a way that is civil, in a way that is positive and optimistic. And we're going to cast, like Republicans did in Hamilton County on Tuesday, cast a hopeful, optimistic, positive message for voters. And I think it's going to resonate. Danny
Lopez, good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, Indiana's best political team talks winners and losers from Tuesday and a huge announcement from Washington. All right, welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in two members of Indiana's best political team, Democrat Kip Tu and Republican Tom John. Kip, in your opinion, who are the big winners from Tuesday night?
Well, there's actually quite a few. And on my side of the aisle, of course, Joe Hogsett has to be at the top of the list. He had $14 million spent against him, and they didn't move the needle. I know I heard Danny talk about they moved the margins, but last year they got about, 58% of the vote in the prosecutor's race. This year they got, Joe Hogsett got 60% of the vote. So Republicans didn't make much headway in Marion County. Second, folks, the rest of the Democrats who I think were big winners, obviously Brandon Sackbun in Terre Haute. He's a big rising star. We have high hopes for him. Deb Whitfield here in Marion County, Lawrence, first African-American female elected mayor in Marion County, pretty big deal. Stephanie Terry down in Evansville also is a big winner, clearly. And a shout out to the group Hoosier Women Forward. Not a lot of people know who they are, kind of inside baseball in politics, but that's an organization that was started about 5 or 6 years ago by a bunch of Democratic women to try to bring them to the forefront. They had 12 wins this last week, and I think there are some big winners. That organization's really making a difference in the state. On the Republican side, I don't know how you cannot say that Sue Finkam isn't a big winner. Yeah. She clearly, I think, exceeded expectations in Carmel, ran, a very strong campaign. And so she deserves kudos for that. I also want to do a shout out for my man, Bill Stewart in Fishers, who was a Democrat who won council there. So he's a big winner, too.
Well, there you go. Okay. So, Tom, I know you were in studio with us on election night, but again, for maybe people who weren't watching, in your opinion, who won the night?
Well, certainly number one is Sue Finkam. I mean, incredible race. Obviously, it was a targeted race. She went out and won by a convincing margin, and now she gets to govern and continue the great work Republicans have been doing in Carmel for a long time. Some other winners that you've seen, Republicans still picked up 15 mayors, at least 15 mayors around the state. You saw the Indiana Republican Diversity Leadership Series had some wins. We had Ronald Morrell, who's the first African-American mayor Republican in the state that's been elected up in Marion. I think that's great. You've got Tiffany Difflitz in Fishers, who was elected. And so you've seen a lot of great people coming on and really future bench people for the Republican Party. And I do think in Marion County, you've seen some of a rejuvenation. Now, they have a tall hill to climb with a 20,000 increase in straight ticket Democrat votes since Mayor Ballard was reelected in 2011. So Indianapolis is a challenge, but they did gain a council seat. They did gain some margins in other seats that frankly hadn't been as close, and they reinvigorated the organization. But it was a tough uphill climb. Jefferson Shreve did a great job with the campaign. He just wasn't able to get there. But all in all, it was a good day for Republicans, and it was one that, frankly, will continue to build in 2024.
Well, let's turn to national politics now, gentlemen. That major announcement on Thursday came from Washington, D.C. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin will not seek re-election. As you very well know, there's also speculation that he's considering a third-party run for president. So how much impact does his decision, Tom, we'll start with you, have on the fight for the Senate and potentially the race for the White House?
Oh, I think to start with the Senate, it's enormous. You simply take a seat that maybe the Democrats had a shot at, and they have no shot at it now. And so now you're starting the year at 50-50, and it's a pretty decent map for Republicans coming in this year to start too. So I think you now look at the chances are pretty good the Republicans are going to take over the Senate. Then you move to the presidential race. Already the Democrats were having serious concerns about RFK coming into the field. Now you have no labels and Joe Manchin coming into the field. You may have two independents, and at least conventional wisdom is that they're going to take votes from Joe Biden, who's already trailing Trump in the polls, and frankly trailing every other Republican, including the next best runner, I think, at this point, who's Nikki Haley, regardless of what the polls say. She's the person I think you're looking at. If it's not Trump, it's going to be. And you combine those independents with her, and it's probably not even close.
Kip, your thoughts on Manchin?
Well, I don't think that it's relevant. You'll be surprised for me to hear me say that, but I don't think Joe Manchin was going to win. I think the reason he's not running is because he wasn't going to win. And so I think that the Senate Democratic caucus already knew about that and already had contingency plans in place. They didn't think he was going to run for a long time privately. And so they've moved on and they're looking at other places on the map. I agree with Tom with respect. It's a difficult map for Democrats in 2024 to hold the Senate. And I'm hoping that the BSCC takes a look here at Indiana and fully funds this place, because this is a place where we could win. Jim Banks is too radical. He doesn't really represent where most of Indiana is. He's an extremist. He's the guy that is spending all of his time defending Trump and yelling about Democrats rather than trying to govern. He's a show horse and not a workhorse. So I hope that the national Democrats will take a look at Indiana as a place to play. Don't know that they will, but I think we have a chance here in Indiana in that regard. With respect to Joe Manchin flirting with a presidential run, I think he takes votes away from Republicans, actually, because he's closer to them, more closely aligned with them on many issues. And their never Trumpers are going to be looking for somebody to vote for if Trump's their nominee. And if Trump is the nominee, I think that Manchin actually takes votes away from them.
Especially if he teams up with Mitt Romney, which there is speculation that could be a possibility as well, gentlemen. Have you heard that?
Have heard it. I don't think Mitt's going to go. I think when he announced his retirement, he said it's time for the next generation. It's pretty hard for him to come back and go, well, I didn't mean for every office.
Well, I'll note with regard to Kip talking about taking votes from Republicans, it's interesting that the Lincoln Project, which is clearly associated and affiliated with Biden, or at least trying to help Biden, immediately came out the press release attacking Manchin. And so I think that's telling of who's concerned about his candidacy.
Yeah. All right. Well, it will be interesting. 2023 is over, gentlemen. On to 2024. Good to see you both. We'll talk to you soon, and we will be right back. And thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this week. We'll be back here, of course, next Sunday morning at 9:30. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network over at wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.